On the morning of September 11th, 2001, a series of events unfolded in just 102 minutes. I mean, think about that. Less than 2 hours. From the first plane hitting the World Trade Center to the second tower collapsing. And in that incredibly short window of time, our world was changed forever. So let's take a look back at the timeline of that day and the profound impact it's had ever since. To really understand that day, we have to start right here with the human cost. 2,996. That's every single life that was lost in the attacks, the 2,977 victims, and the 19 hijackers. It is still the deadliest terrorist attack in history. And it's easy to see a number, but every single one of those was a person, a story, a family completely shattered. So how did this all happen? Well, the attacks weren't a single event. They were a coordinated assault, a terrifyingly precise operation involving 4 separate commercial airplanes. Each one was hijacked right after taking off from airports on the East Coast. Let's really break down how that morning unfolded. What's so jarring is just how fast it all happened. At 8:46 in the morning, Flight 11 hits the North Tower. For 17 minutes, most people watching thought it was some kind of horrible, tragic accident. But then, at 9:03 a.m., that illusion was just completely shattered when Flight 175 slammed into the South Tower on live television. Less than 40 minutes after that, the Pentagon was hit, and then the towers started to fall. All while the passengers and crew on a 4th plane, Flight 93, were fighting back, forcing it to crash in a field. The whole sequence of events created this unbelievable sense of chaos and disbelief all across the country. So the immediate questions were, who did this and why? The investigation, as you can imagine, moved incredibly fast, and it quickly pointed to one specific group with a very long list of grievances against the United States. The perpetrators were 19 men, and they were acting on behalf of al-Qaeda. You've heard the name, of course. It's an Islamist militant group that was founded and led by Osama bin Laden. Now, bin Laden actually denied he was involved at first, but later on, he came out and claimed full responsibility for planning the whole operation. So, what were their reasons? Al-Qaeda's motivations were laid out pretty clearly in public statements, one of the most famous being a 2002 letter to the American people. Their main grievances were things like the presence of U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia, which they consider a holy land, as well as America's strong support for Israel and the crushing sanctions against Iraq. They'd also pointed to U.S. foreign policy in places like Chechnya and Kashmir, basically framing their attacks as a defense against what they saw as American aggression in the Muslim world. This quote, it really gives you a chilling glimpse into the long-term thinking here. In a video from 2004, bin Laden claimed that the original idea to attack towers in America actually came to him more than 20 years earlier, back in 1982. He said he was watching the destruction of high-rise buildings during the war in Lebanon, and it was then that he decided he wanted to, as he put it, punish the oppressor in kind. So in his mind, this was direct retaliation. The attacks sent this absolute shockwave of grief and fear across the country, and really across the entire world. Let's take a closer look at that immediate, devastating impact. This chart really breaks down the staggering loss of life. Of the nearly 3,000 victims, the vast, vast majority, over 2,600 people, were killed right at the World Trade Center site. They were either in the towers or on the ground below. Another 265 people were on the 4 planes, and 125 people died at the Pentagon. The scale is just hard to wrap your head around. And in the middle of all that chaos, you had hundreds of emergency workers running into the burning towers to try and save people. Their sacrifice was just immense. 343 firefighters and 72 law enforcement officers died that day. To this day, it is the single deadliest event for first responders in American history. Just unbelievable bravery. The response from the federal government was totally unprecedented. As the attacks were still unfolding, the FAA made a decision that had never been made before. They grounded every single civilian plane in the entire country. For 3 days, the skies over America were silent. It was this stark, eerie symbol of the nation's vulnerability, and it left millions of people feeling completely unsettled, wondering what could possibly happen next. The impact of September 11th didn't end when the dust settled. Not even close. It kicked off a brand new era. An era of security, of foreign policy, and global conflict that is still shaping our world right now, today. The shift in national security was like night and day, really. Before 9/11, airport security was handled by private companies. Afterwards, the federal government stepped in and created the TSA. Before, intelligence sharing between agencies was really limited. After, the USA PATRIOT Act gave the government sweeping new surveillance powers. And the Department of Homeland Security was created from scratch, fundamentally reorganizing the government with the goal of preventing another attack. The immediate economic blow was, as you'd expect, massive. The cost just for the infrastructure and property damage from the attacks themselves was more than $10 billion. But believe it or not, that was just the beginning. Because the response to 9/11 led to what we now call the War on Terror. According to the Costs of War Project, the military conflicts and the homeland security buildup that followed over the next 2 decades have cost an estimated $8 trillion, an almost unimaginable amount of money. And then there's this number. This might be the most sobering legacy of all. The same study estimates that the post-9/11 wars in countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen have led, both directly and indirectly, to the deaths of over 4.5 million people. It's a staggering figure that just shows how far the ripples of that single morning have spread across the globe. So, when you look at it all, the legacy of 9/11 isn't just a memory of a terrible tragedy. It's woven into the fabric of our daily lives, how we travel, how our government watches us, and the unending conflicts that started in its wake. It's a legacy of loss, of fear, but also one of resilience. And it leaves us with the ultimate question: how does a single day continue to define so much of our past, our present, and our future?